welcome to Last Cast. You join us today at Moor Monkton Pools on Cypriot Lake, peg 20. It's a nice day so far, but the weather's been a bit iffy in the past couple of weeks. It's about 12 degrees, we're just starting in April now, so the fish are going to sort of be a bit unsettled. So with that in mind, we're going to look at fishing a couple of different methods, just to see where we can pick up fish. Initially, we're looking at the peg. We've got two islands in front of us, so therefore I've set up two method rods, one for each island, as the distances are slightly different. And that we're going to look to fish within a couple of feet of the island, not right up to it, because I think the fish will just be backing off from the shallowest water a bit. And then the second plan of attack is a skimmer line. Again, we're going to look at fishing two little areas there, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, just over a ball of micros and one with a ball of ground bait, fishing dead maggot, maybe a couple of expanders. So what we'll do now is look at across the rigs that we're going to use today. We'll start with the pole line. It's dead simple, we've got the same depth in both areas, so I can switch between them depending on bites. We'll start at the elastic, 6 to 10 hollow, and that's moving down on 0.15 mainline to a 0.6 Garbolino DC series float. Wire stem because there's a bit of tow on the water today, and a nice thick bristle, again fishing for skimmers, so you need to be positive. Moving down the rig, strung bulk of number 8s with two number 10 droppers just above a 6-inch hook length, and that's 0.13 to a size 16 B911. Ideal for this kind of fishing. We've got a chance of getting a carp out if we hook it, but it's soft enough for any small roach and skimmers that we're going to be catching. Moving on to the first method rod. This we're looking to fish further down the peg towards an island at a bit of a distance. So it's an 11-foot Maver Powerlight, 6-pound TDR reel line, 25-gram method feeder, and that's with a twizzled loop above it and a float stop there just to prevent the feeder running up to the top of the rod when you're rebaiting. The hook length with that is 0.17 to a 16 QM1 with a bait band there. We're just going to look at fishing a pellet on that. And then the final method that we're going to use is the other method rod, and this one's going to be going straight out in front of us at a shorter chuck. So that's an 8-foot bomb rod, again 6-pound TDR mainline. This time we've got a 15-gram Drenham's method feeder, both of the small size, quick change bead, same hook length again with a 16 hook, but this time without a bait band, and with that we're going to look to fish dead maggot on there. As I say, the fish are going to be backing off a bit, so it's an idea to fish a bit more negatively there. So that completes the rigs, so now we'll have a look at the baits that we're going to use. It's worth noting that we've already run through in a previous video how to prepare the micro pellets and the ground bait that we'll use. So if you just look at that, we'll link it down in the description below. So with that in mind, we'll look at now the hook baits that we're going to use and how we're going to alternate those through the day. First bait is 3mm micro pellet, a bit of ground bait mixed in, perfect for the method feeder. And the other option is just pure ground bait. Again, this time of year, as I said, the fish are a bit unsettled, so it pays to have a couple of different options. That's just a method mix that's been put in the freezer to render it inert, and then with a bit of green swim stim in there as well, just to remove some of the more coarse particles. So that covers the feed baits. Again, those are going to be on the skimmer lines as well as the method feeder. Hook bait options, we've got 6mm and 8mm green swim stim pellets. They're ideal for the method feeder, just to be put on the bait band. We've got another hook bait option there in some different coloured 8mm pellets. Again, those would be a good contrast bait to the green that we've got there. So again, if the water really colours up, the fish will be able to find them a lot easier. Now for hook baits for the skimmer line. We've got 6mm expander pellet, and we've got some maggots there. We might use these dead or alive, just depending on how many fish there. If there's plenty of small fish present, then I'll probably just use a couple of dead maggots. If there's very few bites, then just a single or double maggot there would be ideal. So now we'll get into the fishing and show you how we're going to start. Right, so we're going to go through clipping up with the method feeder. As with method feeder fishing, 90% of the time you're going to be fishing to a feature, so you need to gauge the distance and clip up. Now, an important thing to consider here is when you're actually fishing with the method feeder, the loaded method is obviously going to be heavier than the empty method feeder. So you don't want to clip up with an empty method. It's important that you clip up with the lead. Aside from that, if you lose the lead, it's not as bad as losing the method feeder. So the lead we've got here is about 40 to 50 grams, and that's plenty heavy enough to get the distance that we want to get to. As I say, when you hit the clip with a method feeder that's empty to clip up with, the rod's not going to bend quite as much when you hit the clip. So you want the rod to be at as much compression as you can get when it hits the clip to gauge the distance a lot better, because then you can just inch it forward. The last thing you want to be doing is casting straight into the reeds on your first cast of the match. So make the initial cast now. What we're fishing to is a mud bank on the edge of the island there. Because it's fairly cold today, so we don't want to be casting really tight to it, but we want to get that distance initially. So you can always clip up to the really tight to the feature and then just take a yarded line off and work your way back from the feature, clip up again, and always go back closer to the island if it warms up later in the day. So make the first cast. Feeder goes behind us, give it a good punch, feather the line down, and it's dropped fairly short there. So feed a few metres of line off, just get that behind the clip. That's so. Reel in. Basically, it's a case of repeating the process so you can creep closer and closer to the feature. So once again, the key tip here is you always want to have the feeder going in a direct line behind you or the bomb that you're casting and straight over your shoulder and looking at the marker that you're going to hit. You see a lot of people bringing the rod round that way, and what that's going to do is the feeder's then going to cartwheel round and go in a different direction to where you're fishing. So you basically want to have a 90-degree angle between the rod and it's all in one direct line. As you can see there, it's dropped a little bit closer. So once again, it's a case of undoing the clip, feeding off, metre of line. One thing you can do is gauge the distance from the bail arm to the first rod eye, measure that and just use that as a gauge. So as I say, as you're creeping distance, then you've got increments to go by. So we'll just clip up there again and repeat the process till we get as close to the islands as we need to be. Right, so it looks like on the last cast was in about a foot of the island, so I'm just going to make a couple more casts and double check it, and that's perfect. About a couple of feet off the island, right off the point there. Again, you want to make a couple of casts just to make sure there's no overhanging branches. Again, the advantage of using a heavy lead is it'll pull through those branches and you'll get a good indication of whether there's any overhanging vegetation there. Especially this time of year when there's no leaves on the trees, you want to be able to judge whether there's any snags present. So bring that in now and we'll start fishing. It's time for the first cast of the day. Just going to slip 3 dead red maggots on the hook, like so, in the method feeder. What we're doing initially to start with is put a bed of micros down and then just capping it off with a thin layer of ground bait. When you're using dead maggots, it's important to do this because it just grips the maggots that much better and holds them in the feeder. Give it a good squeeze and the feeder drops out. It's absolutely perfect. So we've clipped up earlier within about 2 feet of the far bank. So we're just going to have a cast now. The feeder's gone in, just sinking the line nice and slowly. As I'm sinking the line, I'm just checking my watch, making a note of the time. So it's a crucial aspect of method feeder fishing, just to keep an eye on the time, and time every single cast that you're making, and take note mentally of when you start getting line bites and when you start catching the fish, because that'll give you an idea then of how quickly they're going through the bait, how tightly you want to squeeze it on the feeder, and whether it's worth fishing a better, more visual target bait as well. Just slowly tightening up to the feeder now. Again, with this style of fishing, just take your time tightening up. You don't want to dislodge the feeder. I've had a few indications straight away there, just as we're tightening up. And if there's a fish on, it should hook itself, so there's no need to strike. And we're fishing. So straight away I'm going to start looking for signs of fish over by the other island, and I'll judge where to go from there, whether it's worth staying in this area or moving down to the other section. There's a fish. Nice positive pull round there. I've had absolutely no line bites though, strangely, in that area of the peg. So I'm going to try and keep his head up because there's a snag there. It's all gone solid. Fish is still on because he's moving.
That's 3 times now.
See if he swims out.
Going under roots.
Back into him. Just had the fish in a snag there. So what I've done is slackened the drag right off and given him some line. And he's luckily come out. I believe there's a sunken tree down there. And just keeping the rod nice and low. See, lovely soft action of these rods. Allows you to get away with fishing small hooks like a size 16. Still putting plenty of pressure on the fish. And that was just a couple of feet off the island, as I say. Turns out that I was right, that they've moved into that shallower water. And the wind's pushed them down there. That feed was in for 9 minutes. And that's the first cast in that area. So potentially with a few more casts and building up a little bit of a bed of bait, may be able to put a string of fish together. Is in the net. Hook has absolutely nailed him right in the scissors there. Just needed this gorgeous to get that out. We'll have a quick look at him. Lovely markings on that fish. Probably a good 3-4 pounds. Again, a few of these and you're certainly building a weight. That with a few skimmers that we've had as well, putting a good weight together already. So we'll get him back. Right, and that's another fish there. Again, just pick up into the fish. Nice gentle pull round. I've just got to be aware of the same snag that the previous one has gone into. It's not your normal code of practice to lift the rod this high when you're carp fishing, but I've just got to make sure that they're clear of that sunken tree. I believe he is now, so I can start playing the fish with the rod lower again. And you saw no need to strike whatsoever. It's more a case of just making sure the fish is hooked when the rod's doing that. So with the 25 gram feeder, it's going to set the small size 16 hook. Just got to guide him away from the tree that's next to me as well. So compared to most commercials, it is quite a snaggy lake, and this is a much better fish. He's trying to get into the reeds under my feet. This looks like a good 6 to 8 pound. I think he's just woken up now. Hopefully we can just be gentle with him and just mug him as he's turning. you can see the lovely soft action of these rods. Just going to turn him. Can't quite get his head up just yet. Compared to the last fish, he was very well behaved around that sunken tree. Just decided to go a bit mad at my feet now, trying to get into every snag. And just taking things nice and careful, smaller circles. As he's tiring, just get the net behind him and he's in. That's a good fish. By far the biggest fish of the day, that. See if we can have a look at him. Again, absolutely nailed in the bottom lip. It's never coming off. Let's see if we can just hold him up for the camera. Lovely common. Fantastic fish. So that, now with the skimmers and the other few carp that we've had, well on our way to a good weight. Fantastic fish on the method feeder. Oh, rod's going. Into another fish now. That one nearly dragged the rod in there. Just looking away. Again, just making sure he's clear of the snag. I think he's kited right round to the right hand side. Bite came absolutely out of nowhere there. That was quicker than the last two. The last two were on the 9-minute mark, and that one was after 6. So the fish are definitely moving in on that feed. Same again, you know, within a couple of feet of the island. This one, compared to every other bite we've had today, has nearly had the rod in. It's another good fish. And just get him under the rod top. Just let him plod around, tire himself out. Again, another advantage of these soft rods, you don't really have to give any line. The fish will eventually come up. And still just tiring the fish out. May well be that we have a few more casts on this method feeder and just keep, in the interim time, topping up the line for the skimmers. Seems today that this line has produced a lot more than the second method feeder line to the island in front of us. And again, I believe that's probably down to the wind pushing the fish towards that other island. It's come up right in front of us there. Just about get him. Another good sized fish. Nice common again. So plenty of fight left in him. Hopefully we'll get him to calm down a little bit. Same again, absolutely nailed in that bottom lip. Perfect hook hold. Let's just have a quick look at him. See if he'll behave for us. Lovely condition fish. Absolutely immaculate. There you go. Another 4 or 5 pounds. Let's get him back. Right, so we've just had a skimmer on the feeder. We've switched back to the pole now and straight away on an expander this time into another skimmer. Again on the feeder, if you're getting skimmers, it gives you an idea that there's not many carp present. So after cupping in a ball of micros a while ago on the short line with pellets. Just gone back in again with an expander this time instead of maggot. This feels like a better fish. Certainly is. Definitely a good sized fish, this one. Feels like a bigger skimmer. It's turning plenty of water. Actually, it may well be a carp, actually. Second thoughts. Yeah, and it is. Small carp. Change of expanders just brought a different species of fish on. I was quite surprised, actually. It felt a lot like a bream when I hooked it initially. Just nodding its head. Again, only on light gear, so just need to take my time. There's no need to bully these fish. So a nice soft hollow elastic there. Just keeping that little size 16 in place. Just trying to get under the platform beneath me. Again, just using the puller kit, nice and steady, just to put a bit of extra pressure on him, try and get his head up. As I say, no need to rush these fish. It's a giveaway with the skimmer on the feeder that it was the right time to change and have a look on the pole. As I say, straight away I've been rewarded with a couple of knocks. And now this carp. Just plodding away beneath my feet. Refusing to get his head up. Try and put a little bit more pressure on him now. So you don't want to rush the fish. Especially in a match. They're of no use to if you lose them after 5 minutes. It's just wasted time. It's just starting to tire out a bit now. And we've got him. It's a good sized carp. Just let him calm down for a second. Just move that out of the way. See where he's hooked. I think the hook may well have dropped out in the net there. It's just rolled himself in the line. That actually just nicked right in the scissors. Perfect. Just have a quick look at him. Get this out of the way. Absolutely immaculate condition common there. Get another 3 to 4 pound fish. We'll get him back. There's another indication there. Right. Feels like a good skimmer. And it just went a bit quieter on the method feeder there. I've had a look on the left hand line, the 10 o'clock line, over micros, and this feels like a very good sized skimmer. You can see the hollow elastic working nicely there. Again, it is a good sized fish. Had a couple of little indications and straight away I've had a nice bite. Again, in the quieter spells this time of year, when the carp go off the feed, it's important that you keep ticking over and putting fish of this size in the net. Again, that's a good 14 ounces to a pound. You get those lining up and you can soon build a good weight. Temperatures have just dropped now, so it looks like we could be on for a shower. It's forecast today the winds will pick up and it might be a bit changeable. May potentially get a few showers. Just another positive indication straight away there. It's another skimmer. It may well be that later on the weather takes a turn and we have to have a little review of the tactics that we're going to use. It's bigger fish this time. Definitely a pound, this one. Another nice size skimmer there. Say, good weight builders these. Another indication there. This time we've got a smaller skimmer. Just seen a few bubbles come up around the float. This may indicate the presence of a carp or some better fish. I think this one may well have just beaten them to it. Lovely little skimmer. What I'm going to do, just to make sure, I'm just going to put another small cup of micros in, just over the top. Again, same size as the last feed. As I say, just in case the fish need settling there, because they're definitely feeding well. So, another small nugget, a bit smaller than a golf ball. Then I'm going to follow that up straight away with the hook bait, just in case they will be able to get a quick fish. So we've certainly learned today that the pellet is the way to go. As I say, it's always worth taking a variety of hook baits with you and feed baits just in case. The bites we've had on pellet have been very positive. Going to lower that in now. Just hold the float up, just allow the droppers to swing under the float and then just gently lower it in. You can see we've got the float dotted right down. Again, this time of year it's important that you have the float dotted right down. Just makes the bites that much more positive. Missed a good bite there. And just giving a nice positive strike every time. It might look a bit excessive, but sometimes these fish can play around with the bait a fair bit. So you just want to make sure you set that hook. It does show that they're wanting some bait now. And it may be something to consider that might put a small cad pot on the end of the pole and just feed every single cast. Just repeating the process each time. Just lowering the pellet right over where the nugget of ground bait went in. Just let the rig settle and then just gently, slowly lower it into the peg. Straight into another fish. Again, this feels like another carp. Just going to take my time. It's a heavy fish. So definitely time to upraise the elastic. Doesn't feel quite as big as the last fish. Just with any luck, he'll behave himself. Hopefully he'll just pop his head up beneath my feet and I can just scoop him before he really knows what's going on. Last thing you want to do with these fish is put sudden pressure on them, because they will just make a very sudden run, and that's when the hook can pull out, which I believe is what happened with the last fish. He's just going on a bit of a run now. Don't want to put too much pressure on him. Just going to ease him in towards the net. Take a little bit of elastic again. So I think he's woken up as well. Right under my feet now. So with the previous fish, the hook hold might not have been that great. Just going to see if I can stand up, just so I can see him. I may well be able to scoop him up before he breaks the surface. But maybe not quite yet. Another length of elastic. Just going to see if I can get him to show his head above the water. He's swimming in ever smaller circles. Just getting a bit more elastic. Just taking your time. It's starting to go on a bit more of a run now. Nearly breaking surface. Just hopefully I can just get him to turn. Once again, just going to take a little bit more elastic off him. Just very progressively increasing the pressure on the fish. So it seems this skimmer line really has turned into somewhere where the carp are happy to feed. It's just difficult with such light elastics putting enough pressure just to get the heads up. Still haven't quite seen the fish yet. There he is. Might be able to just scoop him and we've got him. Another lovely sized carp. That's another good fish. Getting hooked right in the side of the mouth. Perfect hook hold. Wasn't coming off like that last one. And we'll just see if we can trim to camera. Put the rig out of the way. There you go, another lovely common carp. It's getting caught in the expanders, and the bites are really forthcoming now. So we'll get him back. Another fish now. This feels like a carp. Yeah, shooting off. Just gonna have to try and follow it out as best I can. Another very positive bite. So again, just going to have to take my time with this fish. It's the issue with this kind of fishing, it's a trade-off between being able to hook and land the skimmers and having enough power to bring in these 4 or 5 pound plus carp. Again, just keeping the pole tip nice and low to the water. Hopefully getting back on the top kit. Again, with that change of elastic, I'm just able to put a bit more pressure on the fish. So hopefully I'll be able to get him in a bit quicker. So 10 to 12 hollow this one. Which is a slightly better compromise, it seems. Being able to get his head up much sooner. Once again, just going to stand up a bit and see if I can put that little bit more pressure on him, just get his head up. Just trying to get under my feet, this one. So as you can see, there's a nice bend in these power kits. Just another aid in playing these larger fish. Again, just beneath the surface. You just see the bulk of the rig. That's a better fish. Just feel the line pinging off the branches there a little bit. Hopefully it comes back out from around there. Lucky. Just went round the post there, holding up these stagings. Just managed to steer him out of it. It's very lucky. He's going for it again. Might be able to just scoop him, and we've got him. Another nice fish. Lovely orange fins on him. Stunning fish. We'll have to get this one shown to camera. Another immaculate condition, just hooked in the top lip, very lightly. Just get that out of the way. See if we can hold him up for you. Still plenty of fight left in him. As you can see there, lovely orange colours to him. Stunning fish. I think we may well call this one the last of the session. Let's get him back. Right, so after that last fish, we're going to conclude the session here at Moor Monkton Pools. We had about a dozen carp and about half a dozen skimmers, just chopping and changing between 2 method lines and a couple of pole lines as well. The changeable weather's meant that we've had to keep changing throughout the day and working out what they want and where we can catch them. But by changing the lines and finding the fish and just catching them in little pockets, we've been able to put together a good net of fish. So once again, thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one. Trees, the bane of my life today. The bait gun wasn't going, it was just moved it in. Carp are on now though, aren't they? Right, I'll land this.